Welcome back to English Flow, the podcast where big ideas meet beautiful language. I'm Julian, and sitting with me today is the wonderful Serena. Serena, how are you doing?
I am doing really well, Julian, thank you. And I have to say, I love today's topic. It is one of those questions that genuinely keeps me up at night.
And that topic is human creativity in the age of artificial intelligence. Can machines truly be creative? Or is creativity something that belongs only to us, to human beings with real lives, real feelings, and real experiences? That is what we are exploring today.
And this is not just a philosophical question anymore. AI is writing novels, composing music, painting pictures. It is happening right now. So the question is urgent and very, very real.
Before we dive in, quick question. When was the last time you did something truly creative?
Honestly, last weekend, I was sitting by the window while it was raining, and I just started writing. No purpose, no audience, no deadline, just whatever came to mind. And at some point, I looked down and thought, where did that come from? It surprised me. And I think that surprise, even surprising yourself, is at the very heart of what creativity feels like.
I love that, the surprise element. And here's the question that immediately follows. Can an AI ever surprise itself? Let us find out.
So, Julian, let us start at the foundation. How do you define creativity? Because before we ask whether AI has it, we need to know what it actually is. Great place to start. Most people say creativity means making something new. But novelty alone is not enough. Every random arrangement of particles is technically new, and we would not call that creative. I think creativity requires intention. You are trying to express something, solve something, communicate something, and the output reflects that genuine inner purpose. And I would add one more ingredient, meaning. A truly creative work connects to human experience. It makes someone feel seen or challenged or deeply moved. And this is where I think AI faces a limitation that is not just technical, it's existential, because AI has not lived. It has not suffered a loss, fallen in love, or lain awake at 3 in the morning wondering about its place in the world. So when it writes a poem about grief, is there anything real behind those words? Or are they just statistically convincing arrangements of language that resemble grief? That is a powerful argument. But here's where I want to gently push back. Not because I disagree, but because I think it deserves stress testing. When we read a poem written 400 years ago, we also have no access to the poet's inner experience. We only have the words on the page, and yet we are moved. So is the meaning actually in the words themselves, or in our knowledge that a suffering human being produced them? Honestly, I think it's both. The words carry meaning through metaphor, rhythm, and imagery, but knowing a real human wrote them adds a layer that the words alone cannot provide. It's like the difference between a hug from a person you love and a robotic arm that applies exactly the same pressure and warmth. The physical experience might be identical, but the meaning is completely different, because meaning lives in relationship, in shared humanity, in history. The robotic hug. That is a slightly disturbing but absolutely perfect analogy. And it leads me to something called the Chinese room argument, a thought experiment by the philosopher John Searle. Imagine a person locked in a room. They don't speak Chinese at all, but they have an enormous rule book. When someone passes in Chinese symbols, they look up the correct response in the rule book and pass it back. From the outside, the room appears to understand Chinese perfectly, but the person inside understands nothing. They're just following rules. Searle's argument is that this is exactly what AI does. The outputs look meaningful, but there is no genuine understanding behind them. And that argument is deeply compelling. But here is where it gets philosophically treacherous. How different is that from what the human brain does? Because neuroscience tells us our brains are also pattern recognition systems. We also learn from input and generate output based on learned associations. So if the Chinese room defeats AI, does it not also potentially challenge our own minds? And there it is, the question that makes philosophers lose sleep. Because the honest answer is, we do not fully understand human consciousness either. We do not know why there is something it feels like to be you, why sunlight feels warm rather than just triggering a behavioral response in silence. And until we understand that, confident claims about what can and cannot be genuinely creative rest on very shaky ground. So, let us be practical for a moment. Whatever is happening inside the machine, AI is right now generating paintings that sell at auction, writing fiction that moves readers to tears, composing music that listeners call beautiful. And when people do not know it was made by AI, they often cannot tell the difference. What do we make of that?
I think we need to separate two questions that always get confused. First, can AI produce outputs that humans find beautiful and meaningful? Clearly, yes. Second, is AI itself being creative when it does that? That is a completely different question. A mirror can produce a beautiful reflection of a sunset, but we do not say the mirror created the sunset. The real question is whether AI is more like a mirror, reflecting human creativity back at us, or whether something genuinely new is emerging in the process.
And where I land is this. I don't think AI is simply a mirror, because mirrors reproduce exactly, and AI is doing something more interesting than pure reproduction. But I also don't think it has crossed the threshold into full creativity, because I believe genuine creativity is inseparable from genuine experience, from having something at stake, from caring about what you make in a way that goes far beyond producing the optimal output. Caring. That word is doing a lot of work, because caring means the outcome matters to you personally, that failure actually hurts, that success actually means something, and that emotional reality feeds back into the next creative act in ways that are embodied, personal, and irreplaceable. AI does not carry the memory of failure into a new attempt. In a very real sense, it always starts fresh. Julian, let us pause for just a moment because we have been using some really sophisticated English, and I want to highlight a few things for our listeners. Great idea. Listeners, pay attention here. This is the part that will genuinely upgrade your advanced English. First, I used the phrase philosophically treacherous. The word treacherous literally describes dangerous terrain, like an icy mountain path, but we use it metaphorically for arguments or ideas that seem solid but can collapse beneath you without warning. This is treacherous ground, means be careful. The logic here can fail suddenly. It is far more vivid and precise than simply saying this is complicated. Second, I used the phrase stress test an argument. This comes from engineering, where you push a structure to its limits to find where it breaks. In intellectual discussion, to stress test an argument means to deliberately challenge it, to find its weakest points. It signals rigor and seriousness. Saying, let me stress test that idea, sounds far more sophisticated than let me disagree with you. And third, notice how both of us have been using hedging language throughout. Phrases like, I would argue, I tend to think, at least tentatively, I'm not yet convinced. In advanced English, especially academic and professional English, hedging is not weakness, it is intellectual honesty. It shows you're aware your position is not the only reasonable one. Overclaiming, stating things with more certainty than you actually have, is considered a serious flaw in sophisticated discourse. Good hedging marks a careful, rigorous thinker. Beautifully explained. And listeners, try using these in your own conversations this week. Watch how differently people respond to you. Now, listeners, we want to hear from you. Here is your question for today. Do you believe AI can ever be truly creative in the full sense of the word? Or will creativity always require a human life behind it, with all its mess, suffering, joy, and irreplaceable particularity? Write your answer in the comments. Tell us why. We genuinely read every single one. And here's my final thought. In a world increasingly flooded with AI-generated content, the most radical thing you can do is create something yourself, something imperfect and personal and unmistakably yours, not because it will necessarily be better than what a machine produces, but because it will be real, and real things carry a weight that optimized things never quite can. I could not have said it better, and that's where we leave it today. Julian, this was such a rich conversation, short but genuinely satisfying. It really was. Thank you everyone for spending this time with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it with someone who loves big ideas, and subscribe to English Flow for a new conversation every week. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep growing. I'm Julian, and I'm Serena. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.